In this video I have a rather large old valve radio, and this one's an Airmaster. So some of the knobs are now missing off it, and that's what the grill originally looked like. Someone's kindly torn it for us. It doesn't take much to tear that. It's all disintegrating and show us what the original pattern was. And this one's basically been sitting at the tip shop for a long time. Someone stole some of the knobs off it and took some of the valves out of it, and I really didn't want to touch it. And I thought they had actually sold it because it moved, but it turns out it was still there, and they had $5 on it, so I thought maybe I should save this poor old thing. It does have a decent speaker in it, one of the roller ones, the, I don't know, the electrodynamic, whatever, the ones with the coil is like a electromagnet. And I have been trying to get this other, not an Airmaster, what was it, Air Zone radio up and running, even though the chassis is pretty well stuffed, I think. But I do have a good cabinet for that. So that speaker might be useful, even though it's a little bit bigger. The other one's all tatty and horrible, cone's all torn, it's got grit in the magnet, and it'd be a lot easier just to swap this over. Well, I can sort of see why this didn't sell. It's a rather bland looking one. I think it sort of dates back to between 1929 and 1935 this company existed, so it's kind of got that more like a TRF radio styling. I think this chassis might actually be a superhet. It's a bit more modern, but it's got this very bland dial. Originally it's inside there broken, there was a little edge meter there, like a electromagnetic meter, which I've never seen on a valve radio before. Normally I have the magic eye. And someone's actually, there's a dial here, I thought it might have been one of these motorised ones, but there's just a pointer there, and there's a big disc that turns. Can't turn it with this knob because dial cord's loose, and someone's actually just written on there with pencil, like the local radio station, ZL, and somewhere here, if I don't wreck it in the process, there's a couple of others, but it's just loose in there, just a sort of just a sort of drum in there that someone's put I think a piece of paper, or it might be some, I think there's a light globe in there so it might light up, but it's not really a very nice looking radio. Cabinet needs a lot of restoration. Pretty weathered, been out in the shed or something. One thing I did get for my $5 is a couple of old light switches, which I didn't even realise were on there until I put it on a trolley to stick it in the car. So there's a couple, well, one's broken. That one doesn't feel the greatest. Don't know if that's a old ring grip or something, but a couple of different styles. You don't see those ones very often. Those are quite common. They used to be everywhere. Well, now it doesn't even work. But that's a little added bonus. I can take those off and do something with them. But unfortunately, I don't think this thing's really going to be worth fixing. Most of the valves are missing. I did pull the chassis out and clean it. It turns out there is still one valve in there. So I'll get the chassis back out of the cabinet and we'll have a look at that. But I think mainly I'm going to pinch the speaker out of it and go from there. It does have a number on it. I couldn't find this model online like on the Radio Museum, but I did find a radiogram that's got basically the same chassis but 2 extra valves put into it. This one just has bare metal where the valves go, but it looks to be the same lineup of valves and same chassis. It's a massive chassis in it too, which is much bigger than normal valve chassis. Maybe some of these early ones were like that. I don't know what's happened down here. There's a couple of loose bits of wood there. I don't know if they're original and someone's cut a hole in them, or someone added those on for some reason, but like I say, not the prettiest radio. I guess that's a matter of taste. Some people probably like these more austere sort of square box ones. I really don't. I like a nice big light up dial on them. And yeah, it needs new cloth, needs a whole cabinet restore. But I might see if I can at least put this one on Radio Museum now that I've found one, because it's not listed on there, this particular model. I think the other one's a 25H or something was the model. I did do some research in the old papers and couldn't find much. I found a few models that aren't on Radio Museum, so I might add them in as well. But with the knobs missing, that one's kind of broken around the skirt. The outer tuning one's still there. I think this originally may have had 2 of the knobs on and the broken one inside it. And over time people have pinched them, which is a bit of a low thing to do. But we can at least have a look at this thing and record it for the sake of history, if nothing else, and maybe be a few good parts in it for other stuff. Here it is from the back. So I've got a nice big roller, what did it say, K7 series I think that is. I can barely see it in this light, it's getting a bit dim in there now. Comes up to the multi-pin, 5-pin connector. That's the chassis, I think the model G90, I think it's just the first 2 letters, but it's a G9089. It's got earth, antenna, pickup connections, the same as its gramophone counterpart. There's the old meter that's what's left of it. Unfortunately, there is a picture on Radio Museum which I might stick up of these. You can still see the little needle in there. It's got a clear bit on top as well, but the little paper card or whatever's gone and the front of the needle's been broken off, and probably there was another clear cover over it. So I don't know if that's cellulose or something. I don't think they had plastic back then, so I don't know what that's made out of. Got these kind of cool little pop-up cans. That's where the one surviving valve is. And these IF things, you can just pop them up, although that's got the valve thing on top, and actually have a look at the IF cans, which is kind of cool. Shame they didn't make them all that easy to get into, but normally you didn't really need to get into them. It's got this weird big metal cover over what must be a 3-gang tuner, so I'll dig that out. And we got some, for some reason the chassis was propped up on some old school carpet, I think that is, or like vinyl flooring or something. Hopefully it doesn't have asbestos in that stuff. Not sure why they did that, but I'll get it out and we'll have a closer look. Well, this is the monstrosity out of its box. There's a broken dial cord. We've got this drum thing on the end of the tuning caps. HOZRHT and ZL, the 4 stations that round earlier. Power transformer, missing valve, missing diode valve. I think most of these are labelled. That was a 58. I think that one's a 58. 57. That's a 55, which I haven't seen before, I don't think. I had to look up to see what it was. That is a 59, and that one I'm not sure about because it looks like an 82. But when I looked that up, it was a 2.5 volt filament diode, which I doubt it would be. It almost looks like an S2. I thought maybe it's a 52, but I couldn't find any sign of a 52 valve. It looks too curved to be a 5, maybe. Yeah, it's definitely not the same as the 5s that are printed there. So no idea what that was. Most of these sort of radios around this era I think used an 80 as the rectifier, but I'm no expert on those things. Something written in cursive on top of there. I've got no idea. It looks like Gling, which I doubt it would be. And interestingly, we've got, I forget what was stamped there. Was it, almost looks like 21 the other way around, but we've got this, what was his name? Weird named person has stamped the chassis. It was Koochew, K-O-O-C-H-E-W, I think it is. A bit hard to read now. It was alright out in the sunlight, but it's so rusty. I think it's got an address in Launceston. I looked him up on Trove, and he was a radio dealer. Supposedly, I forget what date it was, early 30s maybe, he was the Astor dealer for Launceston or something, and then they sent him up to Brisbane or somewhere, but he must come back again at some stage. And there's a bit of an article in there where one of the employees, or he alleged his employee did a dodgy and traded in some radio for £10 or something, and then kept it for himself, and then gave the employer, this Q2 guy, I think it's got W or something, his FW, his name was Frederick William or something. He gave him a cheaper radio that the guy already had, sort of upgraded his own personal radio and gave it like a £2 value radio back as the trade-in, while giving the customer £10 off or whatever, but I think it was thrown out in the end, so it couldn't be proven or whatever. The court wasn't happy with that, but he was in Launceston, so it's interesting. Never seen a chassis stamped before, so either he might have sold this new, or he may have traded it in and stamped each chassis that he got just to prove that it was one that he sold. And we've got capacitors hanging out, but yeah, G9089. I think the other one on the Radio Museum has a red and black terminal on there, so maybe something's missing. Maybe this didn't have it. It looks very much like these were made for pins to slide in, so I don't think anything's missing. Oh, actually, we've got this cap. Hope that hasn't got PCBs or anything horrible in it. Tested on 500 volts AC, but that's disconnected. And I don't know, are they replacing it? Oh yeah, those wires probably went to it originally, and they've just put them here. We've got the old cracked rubber that's all starting to disintegrate. They put a couple of Ducons across. Aerovox. Ducon Aerovox electrolytic condenser. Or incorporating Aerovox patents. 8 microfarads. So 2 in parallel. Should be 4 microfarads. Do we have a value on this thing? Oh, it's got a nice label on it. Hydra condenser. The zenith of quality. 1 microfarad. HydraWorks Berlin, I think that says. So it's actually a German one. I'm going to have to pull that out and have a look. Ducon, another Aerovox thing, and the terminals actually spin on the end of the hole. Oh, it's just the paper, it's probably spinning on the cap. We've got a IRC metallized resistor there, nice blue label on that. Some weird, is that a capacitor? I'll say it would be Type M mica TCC. Another, oh, it's a Ren Raid. Megs, or something Megs, I guess. Resistor, actual wire wrapped around some bits of Bakelite. Resistors, I guess. Possibly another one of those. We've got the older resistors with the colour code painted on them. A wax tight condenser. Does it have a brand beyond that? There's some sort of symbol on there. Oh, there we go. Polymet. Trademark. So a lot of stuff I haven't seen or not very familiar with. Is that another Alpha Engineering Sydney? I think that's what that air zone has in it. So these have got extended shafts. That's your on off. This is like a dual. So the outer one does the, well, did the tuning until it got broken. The inner one turns something, tone or something. Great big pot there. Oh, what's that got on it? ETC Yaxley, made in Australia, 600 mega ohm. God, that's a high value. Another big one here. Pretty basic little chassis with not much in it for, I mean, it's mostly empty space. And oh, I've got a big weird resistor thing down the side here. One of those multi-tap. That tap's not used, that one is. There's a tap at that end, capacitor goes in that end. Again, a big, like a piece of Bakelite circuit board with wire wrapped around it. Looks like someone's upgraded the mains cord, and I think there's, oh well, there's meant to be fuses behind this little cover, but they've been stolen for some other purpose, no doubt. Manufactured under, oh, USA license, oh, Hazeltine Corporation. I think we saw one of those before, or maybe it's on a video I haven't put out yet. Hard to remember with some of these things. That's some sort of electrolyte, it's a Philco, I think. It's, no. It is a, oh, now I can wipe it off. ECNICO. ECNICO, I think, electrolytic capacitor. 38 stamped on it. I wonder if it was that late that it was made. Who knows, could have been replaced at some point. Does look a bit like someone's replaced it at some point. But this should have been built earlier in the 30s somewhere. Red is positive. Do we have any patents? These caps are up to 33, 31 to 33. Sometimes the patents give you some idea, but they could have been made under those patents later. But let's have a look what's under this tuning capacitor cover. That was the thing that sort of fascinated me. What on earth is that? But probably just a boring 3-gang tuning cap or something by the look of it. Yeah, that's our needle, but is that meant to come off? Or have we got nuts under there somewhere? It's got this weird sort of big shaft there, but I can see 3 tuning gangs in there. And we've got screws here maybe to connect to them or something. Not that they're connected at the moment. I thought those screws would just come out, but of course the age of this, it's probably got nuts on the other side. They didn't normally thread the holes, I don't think. And I don't know, that doesn't get the cover off anyway by the look of it. That cover, I thought it was screwed on along the side, but it's not, I don't think. I think it slides or springs off. Probably just got to prise it off. Oh yeah. God, look at that for a beast. First time that's seen the light of day in a long time. They've actually, that one's been bent a bit. I wonder if someone did that to tune it or something. Got little cut bits on the end. Yeah, it looks like someone's bent a couple of them, so maybe that's to fine tune something, trim it or something. It's got terminals on the other side, and that's, oh no, they're not connected to anything either. Oh, maybe they're trim caps. No, I don't know what they are. 3 wires coming out the other side by the look of it. I think that says something 107 St John's Street, I think that says. Which there is a St John's Street in Launceston from memory. Yeah, I might look that address up and see if I can find anything. Like I say, I think someone has actually done that in pencil is what it looks like, but can we carefully clean that off without destroying everything? Because it's filthy as. Unless the actual seller put them on there or something, I don't know. It looks a bit hand drawn, and maybe that was the idea. The customer could add in radio stations as they put them in. Not sure when HT and HO went in. ZL and ZR were the ABC. But I think all of them have been there pretty much as long as radio has been a thing. Let's say something with some writing on the side. Oh no, someone's just written ZL there. Maybe it's just someone new to write it in. Yeah, HO, HT on the side, I think. Well, it looks more like XT, but anyway. So, nothing particularly exciting, but oh, actually the dial cord, what the hell, is tied onto this thing? Oh, it's a different cord to tie that together, I think. And yeah, light bulb in there. Very dusty one. And then we haven't even got a rectifier or anything to really fire this thing up. I mean, one of the other ones I've got lying around might work in it, but I don't think there's much point applying power to it. There it is, I can read it on that angle. Yeah, 107, I think, St John's Street, Launceston. Phone something along the lines of 351. Yeah, then it's got 21 and another number stamped in. It really looks like S2, or it's got to be either S2 or 82 on that valve. Assuming that is the valve number. It's got 59 there. There's no other stamp I can see near it. Yeah, the other ones are right on the edge. We've got some sort of joiner there, rather loose. Some sort of linkage through there, not sure what that does. But the other one I think has a valve here and a valve there or something, the radiogram version. So I guess a preamp for the radiogram. Maybe that's another reason they also made this quite large. And they probably thought, oh well, we'll make a one without a record player on it. Better tighten them back up while I think of it. So that's about the biggest tuning cap I think I've ever seen. I like that they've covered it up. That keeps all the dust and muck out of it, which is a good idea. I guess we could check and see if we've at least got a intact transformer. This needs all the wiring replaced, all just rubber coated cracking mess. Someone has done a very dodgy job here. It's a newer plastic mains cord, so I would think that's been upgraded at some point, and it's not earthed. And this transformer wiring's a real mess. So what do we? So that's one side. There was a fuse to there. Whatever was hooked to the other fuse, if it was ever in there, is gone. Possibly they've put that. What's the bit they put the transformer wire? It looks like someone's fiddled with it from there down to there and straight onto the mains. So there's a possibility this transformer is going to be fried anyway, which is another reason the chassis would be stuffed. Someone scribbled something on the back there, possibly whoever assembled it or something. Let's measure across it. Well, there's something there. And there's something to that. Is that another winding of the transformer? Possibly. They all go to the terminals under the transformer. Now this would be, I wonder if that's our B plus kind of thing coming out of the transformer. It's not shorted, so that's a good sign. No, you don't need to take them out. Someone's had some sort of dodgy bare wire to there, which then goes, what the, under that shaft. Someone's earthed that shaft. I wonder if it was a noisy pot or something. Back to the transformer. They've actually soldered copper wire onto that. They've got some bit of broken copper wire sticking out there. This thing's been heavily worked on, I think. And that's, I can see green wire cut off there. The other green wire goes to that link, so that's no idea what that is. I mean, that's just dodgy having this floating around where it can short on things. And that's the capacitor, the hydra condenser. I guess I've got a picture of a hydra, I guess a multi-snake head type thing with little yellow eyes on it. The zenith of quality, Hydra Works Berlin. I'll have to look that up, see if I can find anything on that company. And the little tags just come out. Yeah, it says made in Germany on the bottom. It's got 5.31, could be the year of manufacture. 26/18/4004, I think. No idea. 18 there. Who knows? But it's pretty early, I would think. And obviously probably not around the war era if it's German, so it must be intermediate between the two wars, I guess, if we're actually buying stuff off them. So I might screw that back in. Kind of a cool old label. Actually, I might get a photo, I might get a scan of that. It's kind of cool. And I'd say that's shot. Let's get the ESR meter onto it. But you do have to be a little sus on some of these caps, just in case they have PCBs or something, as in the toxic chemical, toxic transformer oil. Yeah, it doesn't measure that bad, it's probably alright. So I assume someone replace that for no reason, maybe. Oh, someone's written pickup radio. That's our switch. What does that say? Second. Maybe? First. But someone's obviously had this chassis out playing around with it on the bench or something and written what the knobs do, or the pots do. But yeah, quite a nice looking chassis in a way. I do like these containers. I don't know why some, should we have a look, I guess? Why have they got nuts holding the top on? While other ones just pull straight off. Hopefully it doesn't mean that you break it when you pull it apart or something. It probably does mean something like that. I don't think that cover comes off. No, I'm not going to risk it. Even though they probably have little value, this chassis might be good for resurrecting something out there. Try another one. It does come loose. Oh, very tight. Let's see if I can get the cap off that valve carefully. Oh wow, it's actually got Targan Melbourne written on it, because there's some info on the Radio Museum about Targan is the company. It looks like they went broke in 35, and then what were they called? Radio Craft, I think. Radio Craft with a K in the craft. Took it over for a couple of years, and then all their assets are up for sale. Machinery and the Airmaster brand name are for sale. But it's kind of cool to see the actual manufacturer's name written there. I believe they had an actual machine for making Bakelite, because that was advertised there somewhere. They were actually making Bakelite phone parts, I think, for PMG, or Postmaster General, which was the telephone company at the time, before it became Telecom Australia and Telstra eventually. But yeah, that's cool to see the brand name, because I've never heard of this Teardown company before. So it looks like these things will pop off with a bit of wobbling. Yeah, that one's loose. I guess why not have a look? So maybe they made their own valve sockets as well. These valve sockets look a bit different to anything I've ever seen before. Probably in those early days of radio, you had to manufacture, or there was good money in manufacturing a lot of stuff yourself, rather than relying on getting it from somewhere else, especially your competitors in the same country. Yeah, same thing, Target, Melbourne. Got interesting kind of coils in these things. Don't know if I can actually show them, but yeah, two sort of sideways mounted ones. It's a bit different to your normal IF can. And there's a lot of them too, isn't there? That's the other weird thing. Let's see if I can get that back together. Come on, you little... So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. That's quite a few for a 5-valve radio. And one of those valves, of course, is just a rectifier, so that's not even a stage of RF or AF. So maybe this thing is an older TR F-type radio. I don't think so. They normally had more controls, I think, to tune each section. I think you had to tune the IF as well as the incoming RF or something weird. I don't know, a long time before my time, so I'm not an expert on those things. Probably learned about it at some stage, roughly how they work, but I've long since forgotten. And that's our other valve. Gently, gently. Nice sockets actually, they come out nicely. It's an RCA Radiotron 55. Which I don't think is one I've come across in some of the other radios I've looked at. And I forget exactly what it was, a double diode or something. But at least I had one valve left. But unfortunately, I don't know how many were in there originally, but I think there's at least 2 or 3 more in there. I did have a quick look at it when it was originally there, because I was thinking about whether the speaker would be useful, and then I sort of forgot about it. And unfortunately, by the time I remembered, it had disappeared, but it turns out it was just around the corner a bit. And I spotted it today and thought, oh, have they got a price on it at all? And it's $5. I was going to make them a silly offer like that anyway. But I probably would have offered 10 or something, just to make sure I got it. But for $5, I thought I'll take it. I could only just fit it in the car, but might as well grab it. And like I say, those light switches off the end are probably worth more than that, or the good one is. That's kind of cool. Nice old piece of artwork. But I can't really fire this thing up unless I can find... I do have some of these valves, I think, in this other air zone chassis. What do we need? 258s, a 57. Diode could probably be just about anything. I think they're somewhat compatible on a 59. So it's got 55, 7, 8, 9... and whatever that is. I swear that looks like a 52, but it's pretty sure it's a different print to the 5s. Well, that's the 8. If that's a 58, I don't think it's an 8 either. So, I don't know. Is there an S2 valve? I can't think what else it could be. Could it be a 62 maybe? It doesn't look that much like a 6. So we've got a 56. I thought I said we had one. 59, so it'll be an upside down 9, I guess. It doesn't look like that either. And I don't think the thing on Radio Museum actually has a circuit or tells you what valve lineup this thing. Oh no, I think it did have a valve lineup, but the one for the diode, I looked it up, it was a 3 or 4 digit valve type, I think. But maybe whatever they list would fit in here. I think a lot of them are fairly similar, so we could probably shove something else in there if you really wanted to get this powered up, but without all these other valves. That's got quite a few connections. So this is all your RF stage. So we've got actually 3 stages at least, and that might be, oh, maybe the double diode is the detector. Where's the, oh yeah, the speaker connector's right under here. So one of those others might be the amplifier. So that was our diode was there, I think. I wonder if this back one's our amplifier or something. You wouldn't know. Where does this go to? It actually goes to... Oh, we don't know. Some of these are the power, so this is like where the power goes through the speaker electromagnetic coil thing. One of them possibly goes to ground. The other, all this stuff's cracking. Yeah, it goes to this back valve. So I think that's our audio output. I guess in theory you could just get the RF going. You don't really need to have the audio output in it at full speaker level. So 2 58s and a 57 plus a diode would be needed. So maybe we can do something with this at some stage, but I don't really want to spend too much time on the thing. I spent quite a bit of time on this other one and still haven't got it going. But I've got something to inject. It seems to have a dead front end on it. I've got something to inject the 455, which hopefully it is, or something around that area, kilohertz IF into it to see if the IF is alive, which I think it is. But I can't really work out why the front end seems to be dead. Possibly the oscillator's not running or something, and I did see something on a Shango or somewhere video about you've got to make sure the tuning cap's earthed or something. So it could be something silly like that. It was pretty rusty and corroded. So I still want to try and at least just resurrect that chassis to see if I can get it going just for the learning experience. So this one maybe could be good for a learning experience, or maybe it's just the end of the road for this thing. Like I say, I don't like the look of that radio. I don't particularly want it. It's not something I'd bother doing the cabinet up on, whereas the old Air Zone, I've already tidied up the cabinet on that. Just because I thought it's a nice piece. It is a nice looking one. It does have issues with the radio dials broken, the glass is. It had cellulose over the front of it that's all fallen to pieces. And this one has the pickup connections at least. So maybe they had the top of the line one had the built-in record player. The next one down the road you could actually plug your own in if you already had one or something, or wanted to buy a separate one, or maybe upgrade later so it was a bit future-proof. So they used the same chassis but minus the amplifier stages. So maybe you'd have to put a preamp on like I found it attached into that old AWA thing, and then maybe the rest of them are just a standard radio. Whether they use this chassis and anything else I don't know, but it's interesting. It's got 3, usually they only have 2 I think stages for the RF. Yeah, then detector, amplifier, diode. So it's probably quite a good receiver, this one. Potentially, who knows, it's a very old one. But I thought it was worth saving because I reckon if it stayed there another week or 2, they would have tossed it in the scrap metal or e-waste, or possibly in the landfill. Probably in the landfill because no one probably would want to bother. Really, you'd have to take the chassis out of this thing, I think, to even put it in the e-waste. I guess it could go as a complete unit, but it could well have got wasted. Either way, it would have got destroyed. And I thought if nothing else, it's interesting just to have a look at it. We've got one valve, assuming it's a good one. It'd probably cost you $20 or something with postage to get one. So that could be handy for something. And we might as well have a quick look at the speaker in it. So there's a big coil of wire in there. Bit of paper over it or something. You can usually undo them like this one. Dead spider. And there should be 4 wires going into it. So we've got our speaker transformer. What have we got? 4 or 5 wires coming in. just 4. I think you'll find one's commoned out or something. Maybe these are completely separate, but 2 wires go through the transformer. Yeah, they're the ones that go through it. So there's some wires, looks like 3 wires going into the transformer. 2 of them come out and go to these terminals, and yeah, you can see they go to the voice coil through the normal sort of mechanism of these. Well, there's the 2 wires. This doesn't have a dust cap, it probably never did. Feels in good condition, a bit faded in the sun, but that's amazingly good condition for when they're sold. It's got felt around it, not the old cardboard. And they obviously had cardboard because that's technically cardboard or something very similar. Nice brown paint all over it. What's it say on here? Do we have a date anywhere? Probably not. Patents prohibit the sale or disposal of this loudspeaker as a separate unit. The old not for sale separately. Delivery is accepted by the purchaser subject to this condition. Australian patent numbers. Something looks like 1932. Another one that's, 32, 32, 33, 34. And 34. So this is probably getting more around, whether it's the original speaker or not, but somewhere around 1934, 35. So maybe this was one of their later models. If this is the original speaker. Patents, roller, registered trademark, 2500 ohms. Patents pending. Electrodynamic reproducer. So it's not even called a speaker. I think they call them electrodynamic, the ones with the it doesn't have a permanent magnet, it has an electromagnet which they use as part of the filtering of the power in the radio. So unfortunately if these go open circuit, you're in big trouble. I think they're quite hard to get. Model K7, Roller Company Australia Proprietary Limited, Melbourne. So I guess we could maybe even check that that's reasonably intact. I mean, this will just measure across the transformer for starters. Well, that pin doesn't, well, it probably doesn't do anything. Does this one? It does unscrew. Another one of these. Oh no, we've got 2 wires, black and green. Surely each one should be connected to something. Oh, there we go. That one's probably quite high resistance. I don't know if that 2500 ohms is the input of the transformer. That's about 300 ohms. Oh, pretty much shorted to that one. 2300 ohms, which is, 2500 ohms, I guess. So maybe one of these is a common pin. But this pin, I don't know if that was connected to anything. That's never a good sign. It goes up wait, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires here. Oh, there's the other one. I didn't notice that before. I counted the 4 going in there, and we've got a spare one there. That is not a good sign. If it's open circuit, we're just measuring my fingers and stuff there. So that's the black. Oh wow, the black. That's the black. What is that? I don't know what colour that's supposed to be. A pale. One of those was blue. That's, I think we've got blue, black, red. There's a green. I think it might be the one going to this joint. Okay. There's your problem. It goes to ground. And we have 0 ohms to ground. So that's just a chassis earth. And the rest of them seem to be connected together. So given there's 4 connections, there's 5 connections to the or 3 connections to the transformer, I think. But either way, I'd say that's probably intact. And this is the speaker out of the air zone one. Cone's pretty well had it, torn right around. I've just used a bit of tape to try and hold it a bit more central. It was very crunchy, still not the best. I think some of that, actually using it puts out a surprising amount of sound, at least with a bit of hum and stuff, and I think that shook a lot of the dirt out of it. Had an air zone label on there, similar to the roller one. Maybe even roller, given that the ohms are in the same place. I wonder if roller rebadged their speakers for air zone. Oh, this is actually, has this got the same? Patents pending. Loudspeaker. Delivery and distributor purchase is subject to this condition. It might have a similar manufactured by Roller Co. Australia. Well, there you go. It is a roller. Various patents, 32 up to 34 again. Other patents pending. Patents inhibit the sale or disposal of this loudspeaker. Did that one call it a loudspeaker? Yeah. Loudspeaker as a separate unit. Delivery is accepted by the purchase subject to this condition. So maybe we can pull this one apart and have a look. And oh god, I hope that's not asbestos down in there. It's got a disc or something there that, yeah, I think that, oh, it could actually be asbestos. I wonder if they used asbestos in these things. That one's got some sort of brown material, more like a, not so much a cardboard, but I don't know what that would be exactly. Looks kind of like leather or something. Ooh, nasty. But it could be some sort of cardboard as well. No, I think it is a cardboard. I don't think it looks exactly the same colour as asbestos. It's starting to go a bit fibrous. Better be a bit careful with that. Definitely fibrous on that side. But it might just be a bit of cardboard or something that someone nicely made to look like asbestos. I wouldn't think they'd want something that hard in there, but maybe. So we might dismantle this one, because I was going to dismantle it to clean it anyway. It's actually got a screw through the front of it. And have a look inside it, and maybe take the thing off the coil there, but this is what I wanted to replace, because that's just a bit beyond repair, I think. Probably could get a modern cone to replace it, or even just silicone it or something, but it's not going to be real good. I'm not sure if I can even get that chassis going, but at least I've got a spare now, and it's a nice big one. Assuming that can just screw into the radio, which I think it can, even if the hole for it's not as big as the speaker, it shouldn't worry it. Well, I just put the speaker back in the cabinet, and it looks like it had a smaller hole, and I can see some earlier screw holes, so it looks like that one had been upgraded from probably the same size as that other one. If you wonder how to get these old switches apart, you just rotate the outside and they open up. I found the broken bit out of this one. Whether it's worth trying to glue it back together or not, I don't know. That's got the little dot to say it's in the on position. It's got an RG, so that must be a ring grip. Made in Australia, ring grip, 5 amps at 240 volts, patent number, etc, etc, 30, it does actually say 33 as well, maybe they are that old. 17th of the 4th, 30 possibly it says. I've never really looked at the patents on these things. So whether that's just a patent number, it's got two patent numbers. One says 17th of 430. Oh, wait up, 17430.15071/33. So, no, who knows? Whether that's got anything to do with the date. But I might just poke that bit back inside there for now. That's got a pretty good action besides that being broken. So I'm not sure if that's worth doing much with. You might be able to patch it up. I don't know if they're really worth all that much. Maybe $5 to $10. Now it's broken around the rim there as well. So there's probably the cover and not much else worth salvaging on this. And we're going to guess the contacts could be taken out. So that's probably not a lot of use. God, that's got some dust in it. What does that say? And this one is that's HBM. Very early HBM monogram there, made in Australia, 5 amp at 240 volts again, patents pending. This doesn't feel so good. Maybe the old grease is tied up, maybe they were just not very nice. I think I have to bend it a long way before it slides. So it's just two metal prongs and they slide into two little sprung bits of metal, or they slide out of there. And that's butchered a bit around that screw hole. So unfortunately it does have some damage. It looks a little rough here, or is that just dirt on it? Don't think I've really seen a HBM one. Those ring grip things were everywhere once upon a time in every old house. Made in Australia, HBM, patents pending, 240 volts, cat number 51. So it gives you the catalogue number, as a lot of later stuff did. Oh, it's got K, oh no, just number 51. Oh, yeah, cat dash number 51. But you can polish this bit of metal, you know, brass or similar metal polish. We'll polish these things up. A little bit of a gap there. I think it's got a couple of little chips around the inside. It just doesn't fit the best. They haven't made that the best. That's kind of cool. I've been collecting a few old power fittings, so maybe I'll just keep it as a collectible. That's an example of a ring grip, so I might just glue that back together. I can keep it as an example, but yeah, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen these, or didn't take any notice if I did, but I know that particular style is very common. But this is, I must admit, not a very nice feeling mech, very hard to do. It makes a good positive clicking sound though. And that one's not really clicking because I've got that bit in there, I think. Hey, that makes that sort of dung noise as it goes. Rings a bit. That's just like sounds like a big arc going off in there. I really don't like electrical things that make that sort of noise. So it looks like it had a speaker upgrade in it, and I'll get a scan of that. Might even stick it on the video somewhere, because that's pretty cool. I like the old Hydra symbol, rather weird. But they used to name things after all sorts of stuff like that, Greek mythology or biblical things or those sort of things. Well, just after I finished editing this, I found an advert for an Airmaster in 1941 from this guy, this F.W. Kuchu guy. And in the adverts, he only seems to be in business around 1943, at least as far as adverts. The next thing I can find for that address is 49, and there's some lady running the shop and someone broke in and stole something. And then after that it becomes more like a white goods shop, so the business did keep going. I also found that the Harvey guy that was running it, I think Kuchu opened it around 1936. It seems to be when the business opened. And then not long after he left, they asked to send him up to the mainland, to Brisbane or something, like I said, and then this Harvey guy took over. And then I think in 1937 Harvey's running to be elected as a politician, so maybe he succeeds at that. And then Kuchu has to come back down again. And yeah, like I say, runs it from around 38 through to 43 for sure. Possible he went a bit longer into the 40s but didn't advertise. There's basically nothing on that address or that shop. And I didn't bother searching his name too much more just to get an idea, but I reckon this advert I found is actually this same radio. Makes sense, it would be about the sort of age, getting on somewhere maybe 6 to 10 years old or something, maybe time to upgrade, or someone's decided they don't want a big one anymore or something. And so he's traded it in and put it up for sale, put his stamp on it. Someone's bought it and it's eventually ended up in the south of the state. Someone's moved down here or whatever. And I eventually ended up with it, so that's a little bit of extra info on it. I also found out that that Hydra capacitor company is still in business. They basically around, I think they started in the 1920s, maybe the early 20s or something. And then by the time this radio was built, it was taken over by AEG, I think. And then later, it sort of moved on, it's changed hands a couple more times. I think they're actually making paper capacitors right up until the 90s, early 90s or something. And then they've, basically the plant's now in, I forget where it was, somewhere in Asia. But that's another interesting thing, those capacitors, that capacitor company's been going for over 100 years, so that's pretty rare you see a company last that long. At least under the same name and everything, though of course this one has changed hands a few times. But they're still actually making them under that brand. So that's quite an interesting one. Usually the company at least gets absorbed and the name changed and whatever. So a little bit of extra history in these things. It's kind of fun to look up a few bits and pieces on these old radios. More fun than trying to fix the things a lot of the time. So thought I'd add that in. So thanks for watching.